Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's really an honor to be here today with experts and educators and friends and allies from around the world, and perhaps some of you who aren't quite convinced of the true power of true play. We've all had the chance today to see the truly revolutionary work of the educators of Anji County. We've seen the schools, we've seen the children. And what we've seen is change that comes from the ground up, from the child to the teacher, to the school, to the community, to the nation, and now to the world. And for that reason, Anji Play is a practitioner-first pedagogy. The true expert is the child. The teacher is a researcher, the creator of conditions that create the love that becomes the joy in discovering the child. And so today, we're going to hear from the second most important voice, the voice of the teacher. The first most important voice, of course, is that of the child. And so we have with us practitioners from around the world and from China. I've had the incredible honor of working closely with our practitioners from America. I've had the incredible honor to see the revolutionary work of Principals Sheng and Principals Zhang, and I'm so excited to learn about the work of Principals Zhang and Principals Yu and Principals Luo. So I'd like to begin first by introducing Carissa Christner from Madison Public Library. For the last 3 years, she's created a program that is the first true demonstration program of Anji Play outside of China. And so I'd like to welcome Carissa to the stage, and we should all give her a great big hand.
Thank you very much. I'm very, very honored to be here with you, to be able to visit the schools again, and to speak with you about a program that I have been working on for the last 3 years. My name is Carissa Christner, and I work at the Madison Public Library. And here is a map where you can see where Madison is in the United States. This is a picture of our downtown branch, or I guess our downtown library. You might think of a library as a place with books, and you might wonder what we are doing with play. Well, we've been doing a lot of early childhood education programs, including things like story times. We've done programs for older kids, including some craft programs. Here somebody is making some slime and having a great time with that. And we have also been doing a lot of things for adults and for infants, for all ages. A few years ago, I was fortunate enough to learn about Anji Play when Ms. Chung, here she is, came to Madison, and she told about this amazing thing that was happening in China. And I remember hearing about her presentation and hearing about these schools in China, and I just remember tears pouring down my face because I was so moved by what I saw in the pictures and what I heard about what was going on. And I knew that I wanted that for my children. But I knew that the schools are bound by a lot of restrictions that would not allow them to pick up Anji Play anytime soon. And so, realizing that I have access to a lot of families and a lot of children through the programs that I do at the library, I decided to try to do a mobile program. And so that summer, with a lot of help from Jessie and from Dr. Chelsea Bailey, I had a lot of conversations to try to more deeply understand Anji Play. And we started doing this program in the park. We went to one park, and we went every week for about 6 weeks over the course of the summer. Of course, we had no Anji Play materials, and so we had to make do with cardboard and bed sheets and paint and whatever else we could come up with that might inspire children to do this true play. And it was amazing. The families kept coming back, and they really liked it. So I wanted to continue. Oh, I should also say that we were very lucky. By the end of the summer, One City Early Learning Center received their first shipment of official Anji Play materials. And they were very kind and generous and loaned us a set of blocks. And so by the end of the summer, we did have some official Anji Play materials, and the kids loved them, and the quality and depth of their play really increased when they got those materials. That fall, I decided that I wanted to continue doing Anji Play programming But in Wisconsin, it is very cold in winter and snows for many months. And I knew that parents wouldn't want to bring their kids outside, and so I developed an indoor program at my library, and we had a variety of materials, and again, families continued to come. The following summer, my colleague Holly, who is here with us today, expanded the program to doing it outside in the park twice a week at 2 parks on 2 different sides of town, one on the east side of town, one on the west side of town. And that year we were able to add a trailer to be able to haul our materials to make the transportation of these materials a little bit easier. The next fall, I realized that my library was too small of a space to be able to hold all of the kids that wanted to play, and so a local community center opened their gym to us, and we were able to use their space for an indoor Anji Play program. And finally, the third summer, we added a third site, and we were now at 3 parks, 3 nights a week, and we got our official Anji Play materials, and we were so excited. And immediately, the quality of the play and the depth and the richness of what the children could accomplish was greatly increased, and they had so much fun playing. We also used those same materials for our indoor program. Now, there are some differences, some important differences between Anji Play in the schools and Anji Play out of schools, and so I want to talk about those. The first main difference is that it's a drop-in program. Each week, I have no idea how many people are going to show up. I have no idea who is going to show up. And every single week, I have a brand new family that I have never met before or spoken with who show up to the program and want to try Anji Play. A second major difference is that we are not a school. And while that means that we have some rigidities and consistencies that aren't there, it also means we have some freedoms because we aren't bound by a curriculum or by tests. And so we have a little bit more freedom to do play the true play way. Another difference is that we are using borrowed sites. We are very fortunate to be able to partner with the Madison Parks Department, and they have allowed us to use their space, but it's not always designed for kids to do whatever they want in the park. And so we have to be creative about that. Another difference is the program is open to all ages. And so we have people playing together who from infants up to 12-year-olds. And that has had some really amazing things and also some challenges that go along with it. But the biggest difference is the presence of parents at every single program. And they are all over the place. And they have of varying degrees of comfort with true play. Now, I've heard of other play programs that have literally put a fence all the way around their play space to keep parents out because they don't trust them not to intervene. This one even has a sign that says, "Your children are fine without advice and suggestions." But, right, and they totally are. However, despite the temptation to keep the parents out, what I have found is, as Ms. Chung says, parents are our allies. Because of this drop-in program, I don't have the opportunity to create deep relationships with each child who show up at my program. But the parents who are there, they've already developed that deep relationship. They know their children, and they know their capacity, and they know what they are capable of, and they know how to care for them and how to make them feel loved and safe in that space. I'm going to tell you a story that has to do with a lump of clay. I didn't take a video of this situation because it was a little bit tense, so I'm just going to share the story with you. One day at a program, an older boy and a younger boy were both fighting over a piece of clay, a large lump of clay. And the older boy was crying and saying, "Let go, let go." And the little boy wouldn't let go. He kept tugging back. And both mothers and myself came in close because we could see that something was going on. And as they fought, as they argued over this lump of clay, the younger boy would sometimes let go, but then he would come back again. And the older boy kept crying and saying, "Why won't he let go? Why won't he let go?" And eventually, the little boy decided to go play somewhere else, and he just left completely. And during that time when they were fighting, the mothers were looking to me and saying, what should we do? Should we step in? Can we step in? And I'd say, let's give them a minute to see if they can figure out how to solve this on their own. And it was in that moment that I realized that one of my main roles in this program is to support parents in their anxiety and to be there with them and to give them just a little bit of support to just wait a minute and see if the kids can figure it out on their own. Well, so the little boy ran off to play. The older boy was still crying, and so I stayed with him for a little bit. And I asked him, well, his mother said, can I tell him what he should do? I said, no, let's ask him. And he said, well, what else could you do? And he said, well, I could tell him to drop it. And she's like, that's a good solution. What else might you try if that doesn't work? And he said, I don't know. And she said, okay. She said, can I tell him? I said, no. He needs to come up with it on his own. And eventually, he ran off to go play, and I had a private moment to speak with his mother. And she told me, I had also asked the boy, I'm so sorry, this story is a little confusing. I had also asked the mother, or asked the boy, when your little sister at home takes something away from you, what is it that you do there? And he said, I don't know. So when the boy left and I spoke privately with his mother, she told me that at home, when his sister takes something away from him, he cries and she gives it back. So that was the only tool that he knew of how to respond. And he didn't know how to respond otherwise. But she also told me that this little boy normally, as soon as someone tried to grab something away from him, would drop it and run away and cry in a private corner. And so the fact that he had stayed with that uncomfortable feeling was actually a step forward for him. And because that mother knew that about that boy, she was able to sit with him in that discomfort. And I wouldn't have known that if the mother hadn't been there. There was another mother who told me that she had come to my program only once before, and she was a teacher who was taking some time off. And because she was a teacher, she really felt like she needed to teach her son the right way to do things all the time. But she said she came to my program one time and she heard what I said about stepping back. And so that week she had stepped back. And she said every single time she was amazed by what her child was capable of doing when she just gave him a minute to figure it out on his own. And I thought, wow, after only one visit, that's incredible. We did a couple of surveys, and we got a lot of answers that are like this. I'm going to read it out loud, just so that they'll translate it. The quote from the parent says, Anji Playdate, which is the name of my program, has helped me to sit back and let my son do more exploratory play on his own without me trying to shape what he is playing or play the way I think he should. I've been more open to letting him play with random things that he might enjoy as well, but aren't necessarily toys. For example, playing with clothespins and clipping them to various things around the house, or even just climbing around on the chairs on the porch. So when I read feedback like this and similar feedback, it made me really understand that in this program, that 2-hour program that I have at the library might have a small impact on a child. But the biggest impact that I can have, the greatest change effect that I can have, is to help the parents understand the deep importance of play and of giving their children the opportunity to play the way that they want to play. So how do I do that? When people show up to the program for the very first time, I hand them a postcard with this information. These are 5 steps that I got from Ms. Chung, and they are eyes open, ears open, heart open, hands down, mouth closed. I love this for its simplicity and its clarity. On the back side of the postcard, it explains a little bit more about why we ask you to do that. For subsequent visits, when parents come a second time, they might get a small card that looks like this. And these cards have quotes from teachers and principals at the schools here, or they have quotes from some research that I've read about play. And it's just a little something to help them learn more about the deep importance of play. The other way that we do it, you see this picture again with all these parents. And beside many of those parents, you'll see the orange arrows are a librarian or staff member, one-on-one talking with the parents. And that is another really important way that we talk about the importance of play with parents. Here's another story. A mother came to my library and she took a video of her child while she was playing. And she told me the next time that she came in that that afternoon, after her daughter had gone home, had lunch, had a nap, and she woke up, just like here at the Angie Play Schools, the mother showed this girl the video of herself playing. And she was very excited to see herself on video. And she was able to recall in great detail what she had done while she was playing and to tell it to her mom, just like play sharing. And then that evening, they were able to show that video also to the dad who had been at work. And he was able to experience the joy of this girl and her play, even though he hadn't been at the program. And that again made me realize what an important role parents can play in this program. All right, do I have time? All right, so I'm going to tell one more story. There is a family who has been coming to my program for this whole season. And before they came to my program, they had been attending another play program that is more directive. So when she first came to this program and she saw that postcard with the 5 instructions, she asked me, okay, so what am I actually supposed to do? You tell me all this stuff I'm not supposed to do. What am I supposed to do? And I said, well, watch closely and try to see what it is that your child is doing. And just step back and try to give him a chance to solve his own things that come up. I circled the room, and when I came back a little bit later, I saw the little boy standing on this stack of blocks here to reach up to the top of a tower. This is him putting the blocks away. But he had at that time been putting them on top of a tower. I said, oh, did he figure that out on his own? She said, yeah, I didn't know he could do that. But he built this tower that was too tall, and then he couldn't get the top one on, so he put some blocks on the bottom and stood on them, and then he could reach taller. I'm like, that's amazing. She said, and then, let me tell you another story about what happened. He was standing on one of these rollers. I don't know if you can see very well, but on the bottom of this are 3 wheels. She's like, he put both feet on, and it was very not stable, and he fell down. And so he figured out that if he just put 1 foot on and 1 foot on the floor, that was more stable. I said, wow, and you just stood back and watched? That's amazing. And she said, and then there was another boy, and they were arguing over something, and they were pulling back and forth, and I really wanted to go up and to tell him that there was another one of those same toys lying right beside him, and he could pick it up. But I didn't. I stepped back, and I watched. And eventually, he dropped that toy, and he ran off and played with something else. I said, that's incredible. I said, you sat back and watched him experience intellectual risk, social risk, and emotional risk, and you did, and physical risk, and you did all of that on your very first time. That's so amazing. So, I'll wrap up by talking that there's a few other libraries in the country who are trying out Angie Play programs already, and there are others that have been in deep discussion with me about the possibility of trying their own Angie Play programs. And that's all I've got for today. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you.
Thank you so much, Carissa. That was so powerful.